Off we go.
Here we are. Good evening. Welcome to another live episode of Disqualified Dads at the new time of 8:30. Now, I think 8:30 is a good time because we've had the questions build up, the viewers are building up, and normally it gets busy around this time. We have Mr. Ryan here. I don't know where he's dropped off, but he'll be back on in a minute. Yep, welcome to another episode. This is episode 57 on the channel, where we support you every week through your family court journey, helping you get closer to your children week by week. Now, what's been going on? Mr. Ryan will be with us very shortly. As you know, he's constantly got reception issues. I don't know what's going on up in Measham, but my man's always got problems with reception or Wi-Fi or internet in general. You know, it is the deep north. What do you expect? So he will be with us very shortly. Now let's jump on to the first comment. Firstly, also I just want to welcome any new subscribers, new followers. I want to welcome you onto the channel. We are here every Sunday at the new time of 8:30. And look who's decided to join us. What happened?
I don't know what happened. I was talking to you, and then I'm thinking, hang on, I'm talking to myself here. So I have no idea. I cannot explain it. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sunday. Yeah, don't let me interrupt. You carry on, fella.
Yeah, you see, I had this great intro lined up and planned, and it got dropped as I went for it. So anyway, I am joined, as you guys are aware, or the regular listeners are aware, I am joined by my co-host. He's the best in the game, or one of the best in the game for sure. He has a lot of good reviews. He has a lot of good feedback from a lot of people going through court, ultimately from a lot of clients. No other than that family law guy, Mr. Ryan. Welcome back.
Howdy do.
Howdy do. Frozen again. Oh, he's not frozen. Sorry, it was a delayed response. He wasn't frozen. I thought the screen was frozen. Carry on.
No, that was the satellite delay. Because I'm in the civilized north. That's what happened there.
Bandit country.
Indeed. So yes, here we are again. Another Sunday is upon us. These weeks seem to fly by. It's worrying to think that it's almost the end of August. Well, it's the middle of August. And we're heading towards the end of yet another year. It's really quite worrying. Maybe just a symptom of me being old, that time passes obscenely quickly.
Well, do you know what's scary is that I hate to say, but Christmas is around the corner, literally.
Yeah, it is. The Eids have been and gone, and Diwali is heading towards our way, and then Christmas will slap us in the face. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, before we get into it, Mr. Ryan, I've got a quick story to share with the people.
Go.
Well, as you guys know, also my father, he's doing a little bit better. He's getting a bit more mobile. He's doing his exercises daily. The physio, we'll be going there, working on his legs, moving him around. We're getting physical with him. Now he can get up out of bed, sit on the chair. He can walk on the Zimmer frame. He's learning to walk again at his tender age of 67, 68. With all the problems he's had. So, but look, he's going to make a comeback. He's a veteran. He's going to come back. But during this whole process, people reach out to you. I think you have a realization of life and how short life is, and maybe what's more important in life when people end up in hospital and it's serious. You sort of sometimes think bitterness and anger sort of dissipates with people, and forgiveness is always on the radar when someone's not doing well. That's what I thought anyway. So I heard through the grapevine, through family and whatnot, that my ex-father-in-law wanted to be my father. He was asking around, and he was sort of indicating that I want to come to hospital to see him, to relatives and friends that we know very close to us. And he sort of indicated that maybe it's a good time for him to see his grandchildren. So my dad to see my kids, his grandchildren that he hasn't seen for 3 years. So I thought maybe if I don't get to see them, not a problem, but at least the kids get to see their grandparents. It might be an opportunity, no problem. So instead of listening to rumors and Chinese whispers, My brother, like I said, took charge and said, I'll tell you what, let's forget all the rumors and Chinese whispers. You call him directly and put it to him like, I heard you want to see my father. What's the crack? What's the situation? So my brother found my father-in-law. Didn't know who he was. He explained, this is who I am, remember? And unfortunately, my father-in-law looks like he's as bitter as he was 10 years ago. Just still a very bitter man. Started coming out with, you and your dad did me dirty. I wish you and your dad all the bad luck and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And I never wanted to see your dad. I never asked for it. And just literally went down that road. My brother went, okay, no problem. I thought I'll cut out all the rumors and hearsay and whispers. I thought I'd approach you directly like a man. And it's a shame to see a 70-year-old man himself, ex-father, he's in his 70s, knowing how short life is. Any one of us could go anytime, but when you're older, there's more of an appreciation for your age and where you are in life. You think that maturity, that wisdom, that life experience will come into play and think, you know what, I might hate that geezer, I might hate his family, but my grandchildren, that's still their blood, that's still their father, that's still their grandparents. Let me not deny them. At least see their grandparents. God forbid anything can happen. But mate, none of that, unfortunately. Very bitter, very sad. But yeah, that's a little story of mine. That's what's come about this last week, unfortunately.
Well, that's immensely sad. I'm probably not surprised, but it's immensely sad. I've got too many examples where you think in a family dispute, of which obviously I am knee deep every day, you think, well, if I reach out to the grandparents, if I reach out to the older generation, to the elders, for want of a better phrase, I'll get some common sense. I'll get some common sense. And you reach out, and there are too many occasions where I think, well, actually, I've now just discovered who's actually driving the hatred. It's not him, it's not her, it's the generation before them.
It's the enablers. They're called enablers.
Yeah, and that's so sad, so sad.
I have to say, I mean, I'm not surprised, but you know, for a split second, I actually thought this was plausible, though. Like, do you know what I mean? I actually thought,
yeah. It was a Putin Trump in Arizona moment, or Alaska rather, moment. That's what we were hoping for.
But it's gone. Right, before we jump in, I've got people reaching out to me on TikTok and Instagram every day. So firstly, if you have reached out to me and I haven't got back to you, I just want to apologize straight away. My phone's still broken. I don't know if you guys can see, it's still broken. The screen's got a temporary screen, but it's struggled. It's not the original iPhone screen. It's struggling, so bear with me, guys. We'll sort out a new phone this week. But I've got a guy on Instagram that's connected with me from previously. He's got a question, so I said I'll ask his question first. Sure. So let me tell you about his situation. Basically, right, the situation is still ongoing. The same headache, and she actually popping up again. She's taking up again. Like time was not given any sort of friend. No fact finding. Children after see father agreed in court. Once out, she obstructs everything. Her last move, she might have gone abroad with my children despite my no consent to this. I am resolved to keep my children once she's back if I have them. Basically, court has said father is to have contact. I think it is still ongoing though, yeah? It's not fully resolved, it's still ongoing. No fact find. As soon as they come out of court, she doesn't bother with it, she doesn't follow any of it, she doesn't care ultimately. Again, other than collect the evidence, stay patient, and to then bring this up at his next hearing eventually, what else could he do?
It's very difficult. Non-compliance, where somebody just essentially ignores the court once the door is closed and you've left that particular hearing, and you know you've got 3 months, 4 months until the next hearing, and they know that too. So essentially, they just say, "Well, that's excellent. For the next 12 to 16 weeks, I'm just going to do nothing," and that is incredibly frustrating and incredibly upsetting, and all of those things. Unfortunately, you've only got 2 options. Well, actually, no, I lie. I'm going to say you've got 3 options. You've got 3 options. Option 1, and this is the kind of the least incendiary. If CAFCAS are involved, if you have an allocated CAFCAS officer, put a message into the officer that just says, "Look, I don't know if you can help. I don't know if you can have a word with the other side, be it mum or be it dad, but I'm really struggling to get them to actually comply and play along. any chance of you just sort of getting involved and just sort of seeing if we can have a friendly word. That's a nice low-level option. And sometimes if you've got a relationship with CAFCAS, you can do that. Option 2, social services. You contact social services and you say, look, I don't really want this matter to come out of hand, but I have got a court order. It is in the best interest of the children that we do A, B, and C, whatever that may be. But the other side is not complying. Mother's not complying. Father's not complying, whoever it might be. Can you just have a word? And sometimes they will. Sometimes they say it's nothing to do with us, do one. And then obviously you have the final option, which is upsetting, unnecessary. But the final option, obviously, is that you either patiently wait until your next hearing and say, oh, by the way, nothing has happened since the last hearing, and raise that as a point. Or you raise what we call a C2, which is an application to bring a fresh matter before the court in advance of the next hearing. So you raise a C2 and say, look, there's no compliance with the order that's taken place. The other option you've got, the final option you've got, is what we call a C79, which is an enforcement option. The problem with the C79 is it can be incredibly slow, because you're essentially launching almost a fresh set of proceedings that run alongside your current proceedings. So sometimes it is quicker for you to do a C2 and just offer up a non-compliance issue or a variation issue within a C2. But whichever of those routes you take, be it CAFCAS, be it social workers, be it go back to court, all of them are frustrating. The downside we have is that the court is firstly quite limited in how it can reprimand parents who don't comply. There's issue number one. And issue number two is the court's actually quite reluctant, in my opinion, in my experience, to reprimand parents who don't comply. Difficult one.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I would just say, like I said, keep collecting the evidence, stay cool, and just keep chipping away at this stage. Not much you can do right now. Just keep chipping away, collect the evidence. Right, moving along. Haven't seen this name in a while. Mr. Hungry Hippo. Hey lads, cheers as always for the invaluable support you both give. Can you please advise about what constitutes as a breach, please, and how many until C79 is needed? Cheers so much, lads. Now, this coincides nicely with what we were just speaking about.
It does, and to be honest, Hippo, my friend, it is a very easy answer. One breach of an order is enough for you to raise a C79, and what constitutes a breach is if there is something written in the order to say that something needs to happen, and that doesn't happen, that is a breach.
There you go.
And they only need to do it once.
Okay, cheers, mate. Yeah, you're welcome. Right, Mr. Darren. Right, okay, I remember this case. Update, had my court date regarding house transfer document. Ex spent 50k on a barrister and solicitor. Thrown out due to irregularities. No cost passed. House to be sold. So that's a good result, if I'm correct.
Sounds like a positive result to me. Yeah, that sounds like a positive result to me. It's a shame.
I remember his case because they were trying to pass on that 50k cost on to him.
They were, yeah. The downside
of the sale of the house, yeah. So Darren's, I think, pulled this off.
Yeah, that's
50k.
50k that's been wasted, that's not available to either person or indeed any children. What a shame. But aside from that, it looks like a good win.
Yeah, listen, guys, it just goes to show it can be done also on a chap that I follow on Instagram. I think you spoke to him a couple of times, Mr. Ryan. His mother's house was up for grabs by the ex. His mother's house has been saved. The judge did not go for it. He said not happening. And he protected his mother's house. So listen, congratulations to that chap as well. So look, guys, it can happen. Right, Mr. S, what is the next step? Progressing from supervised contact in contact center. How many cases have you seen before fact find, community and supported?
Right, okie dokie, let's tackle this. Let's break it down. So what's the next step progressing from supervised contact in a contact center? Well, the next step can go really two different ways, three different ways probably. You can either progress to unsupervised contact in a contact center, so where you haven't got somebody breathing down your neck, or you can progress to supervised contact in the community. So you're still being supervised, but you're out and about in the park, running around. So we'll leave it as the park as that example. That's supervised in the community. Or you can move to supported contact, which is that there's somebody in the room where you are, but they're not paying that much attention unless there's something happens which causes them to be alerted. So those are your progression points. How does that happen? Either through getting it back into court and asking for progression within court, or through sensible conversation with the other side to ask them if they're happy to support a progression, or through the involvement of CAFCAS, who, if they're involved in this matter, then they should be monitoring what is going on. And you can go to them and ask them if they will support a move away from your current contact arrangement to something that's more free. So those are really your approaches. How many cases have I seen in terms of contact happening before a fact find? There are lots of cases where contact of some description is taking place before a fact find takes place, before a fact find is carried out in court. That contact is almost always supervised in some way, because the whole point of having the fact find is because we believe there is a potential risk or harm or abuse issue. So they're obviously not going to let us run around with no restrictions whatsoever in terms of our children. But it happens a lot. It's happening more often, actually, in terms of the court, because the court is recognising that because of the delays waiting for fact-find dates, children are being impacted by having to wait and not have the opportunity to have a relationship with the other parent. And there's lots of supporting case law where it says that it is in the best interest of the children, whenever possible, to reconstitute relationships, reconstitute contact in some form or fashion.
There you go. That was quite a detailed answer, Mr. S. Hope that makes sense. Right, Mr. Am. I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks. Right, 1 of 2. Evening, gents. Hope all is well. My hearing on 1st of August was adjourned. Mother blamed a bereavement, but a solicitor wasted time and notified us 48 hours before the hearing. Can I make a civil claim against mother for wasted costs, also citing that she raised a non-mol during our second hearing, despite messaging saying I was safe?
Okay, very quick one. Your cost. Oh, hang on. Let's deal with the first 2 bits first. You can't make a civil claim for wasted costs in the family court. You have to make the claim in court, and you have to open the claim on the day that the wasted costs occurred. So when you went into, if that hearing was adjourned on the 1st of August, then you should have made a caps cost application then to say this is a waste of my time and a waste of my money. If the revised hearing, if the rescheduled hearing hasn't taken place yet, then you still have opportunity to make a cost application, but you make it into family court, not into the civil court.
Okay, so just so I'm aware, before we move to the next part, just so we're all aware, if your time has been wasted like this and you show up for court on the day, but mother doesn't show up because of whatever reason, at that point, highlight that you want to put a claim in for wasted time and cost then, incurred cost on that day. And also, if it's rescheduled, when you show up again for the rescheduled date, if the first one is cancelled because of all this drama, you could highlight that at the start, right there and then, that you want to claim for wasted costs and whatnot. Yeah. There are very specific grounds for cost orders to be awarded, but certainly if the other side, within 48 hours from what we see, within 48 hours has called an adjournment, then that is probably sufficient grounds to secure a cost order. Right, let's move along to the next one. Right, answer that, Mr. Ryan. I've just got a problem with my TV's coming. Let me turn it from the background while you answer that. Yeah. Somebody's talking to us in the background. Yeah, you fix that. Okay, let's deal with the other bit then. So she's also citing that she's raised a non-molestation during our second hearing, despite. So, are we saying that she raised a non-molestation and you want to claim for that as a waste of time as well? Is that what we're saying, or are we saying that she's about to raise a non-molestation? Hang on, I'm going to read the next bit of your message to see if that helps me any.
What are the chances of my overturning or requesting a judicial review for a one-sided bias, Section 37, which would directly impact my child arrangement order? Okay, so let's deal with the non-mol first. So if she's previously raised a non-molestation, or she's indicated her intention to raise a non-molestation, and you have messaging from her where she declares that she's perfectly safe, then unfortunately, when the application comes forward, you're just going to have to present that evidence and say, look, here is a mother who previously has suggested that she has no issues. So I find this baseless, this application. There we are. Moving on, chapter to the next bit. Let's see what this next bit.
Sorry, yeah. Right. Also, what are the chances of my overturning or requesting a judicial review for a one-side biased S37 report, which will directly impact my child arrangement order?
Right, okie dokie. If you've got a Section 37, ignoring for 1 minute that your view that it's one-sided and biased, if you've got a Section 37 and you are heading towards a final hearing, I presume that the author of the Section 37 is going to the final hearing in order to be cross-examined. I presume that is the case. If that is the case, then that is your opportunity for you to question him or her in order to dismantle the Section 37 and demonstrate your view that it is biased. So there is your opportunity to do it. Is there a mechanism whereby you can claim it beforehand? You can make representations to the court. I will be perfectly honest with you and tell you that the likelihood of them doing anything about it is almost nil. They will tell you that you have opportunity to challenge the Section 37 when the author is in the dock at a final hearing.
Right, I hope that answers the question, Mr. Amp. It's been a while. Don't be a stranger. Right, Mr. J-Dad. Hi, last week you mentioned going back after a year of contact led to shared care half the time. If they don't give shared care, do they add more contact? Are there any dirty tricks mum can play?
Okie dokie. Yeah, so you've had a contact. We'll just explain what we've got here. You've had a contact order, and I was saying last week or the week before, whenever it was, or I've probably said previously, let it run for 9 months to a year. Let it run well for 9 months to a year, and then you've got an opportunity to go back to court and have it increased. And obviously, ultimately, what you are chasing is a shared care arrangement where you are equal in terms of, as best as possible, in terms of the amount of time that you're spending with your children over the course of a week, a month, a year. So when you go back and make your application and say, I would like to increase the amount of time and ultimately I'm chasing shared care, it's not a guarantee that you're going to get it. There's a whole ruck of reasons why you're not. Mother, funnily enough, it's a mother in this case, which is why I use her as the example. Mother is obviously going to offer a whole series of reasons why you shouldn't. She is going to say that during the course of the last year, while she's tolerated you, you've actually not been a very good parent. And she's going to come up with 50 different reasons why that's the case. And some of them might be somewhere near the truth. Some of them might be very true, for all we know. None of us are perfect. But some of them will probably be exaggerated in order to make her point. So there are no guarantees. I say that, you should progress your order if you possibly can, but there are no guarantees that you're going to get a progression on your order. And in terms of dirty tricks, any parent, regardless of where they are in proceedings, be it the first time round, the second time round, or the third time round, they're going to conduct themselves the way they've always conducted themselves. They're fighting for their own best interest.
Yeah, Mr. J, that hope that makes sense. Let's move along. Right, Mr. S again, to clarify something. Sorry, I mean, how likely is it to progress to supervised community or supported before a fact find? I understand we can progress after the fact find easily. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
The likelihood of, if you've currently got supervised contact, the likelihood of it progressing to anything before the fact find is almost nil. The court will be comfortable with the fact that they have you in a place where you are monitored, and supervised contact is it. So progressing to supported contact, I would say there is no opportunity whatsoever. Progressing to supervised community, so as in supervised, out going into being able to be out in a park and such like with the children with a supervisor. There are two issues. Well, there are a number of things that need to be reflected on there. Number one, firstly, if you want that to happen, you've got to make an application and try for it to happen. And I don't think you're going to get it, to be perfectly honest. I think the court will say, we've given you, you're already in contact with the children. That is perfectly okay. We don't want to rock the boat. Let's wait for the fact find. That's my view. But you can still make that application. Secondly, at the point where you're applying for contact, and this is a trick that many people miss, and it's not as a result of them doing something wrong. It's just a reality. Is when you apply for supervised contact, ask for supervised start by asking for supervised in the community contact. Ignore contact centres. Ask for supervised in the community. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that you can meet the children in the park, or you can meet them in a local shopping centre or a Costa Coffee or whatever it might be. And you can stay in a limited setting. So you might be able to stay within a shopping centre or stay within the park for the course of contact. But with you, glued to your shoulder, is a supervisor. And that person is a trained child professional. So that is something that I urge people to try and apply for when they first are pitching supervised contact. Say, can it be in the community? Now, here's the downside of that. The downside of supervised in the community is the cost. We all know, because I've talked about it many times, that contact centres are expensive. And where you are in the country varies in terms of the cost. But if we're looking at the cities, and it's really the cities, so if we look at London, Manchester, Birmingham, contact centres are expensive. Some of them are in excess of £100 to £125 per hour to be there. Very expensive. Very expensive. If you go to supervised in the community, so you're essentially hiring somebody who is only working for you. They are only supervising you, and they're not involving themselves with anybody else. You are going to pay for them exclusively. And I'm aware of 2 or 3 independent supervisors who do in the community supervision, and they're lovely people. But I know all of them have a minimum 4 hours as what they will charge you, because obviously they're traveling to be with you, and then they're going to hang out with you, and then they're going to travel back again, so they're charging you for all that. So I know that the 3 that I'm thinking of, who are all London based, I'll say that at the outset, all charge a minimum 4 hours, and that minimum 4 hours is £400. Your jaw may well drop. Yes, sir.
Listen, can anyone apply to be a supervisor or wherever it is?
Yeah, you do require some qualification. I knew that was coming. But yeah, as I say, so
where can I buy these qualifications?
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about it after.
Online?
We'll talk about it after, mate.
Yeah, I need some of that, bro.
Yeah, but so that's the problem. So supervising the community can be very expensive. You can very quickly be spending £400 or £500 a session to have an hour or 2 hours with your children. And all right, our children are priceless. There is no value to them, but there's also a reality to life. So that's a difficult point in terms of supervised community. But anyway, going back to the original point, when you apply for supervised contact, start by saying, can I have supervised in the community? Recognizing the fact there's going to be significant cost penalty. Be aware of that before you actually pitch it. Are you going to be able to move from one contact arrangement to a better one before a fact find? No.
All right, so look, let me ask you a question. I'm just curious myself now, yeah? With these contact centers. So the contact center and the supervised contact as well, similar sort of money, yeah? 100, 120, varies, give or take.
It varies depending on where you are, yeah.
Now, when you go into a contact center, is it a dedicated building or space, or is it just a space that's temporarily used a few hours a week, makeshift area, couple of tables and chairs, sort of thing? Like how does it work? Let's talk about this.
Contact. Don't get me started on contact centres, but contact centres are, as a sweeping comment, I'm going to say contact centres are pretty poor. They're invariably not dedicated spaces. They're invariably in a build. They might be in a community centre. They might be in a church. I know of half a dozen contact centres that operate out of a church. They might be in the back of a school, but they're invariably not dedicated spaces. And so they're make-do spaces. So because today it's a contact centre, tomorrow it's holding a coffee morning for toddlers. The day after it's holding a bring and buy sale. The day after that, it's doing a Tai Chi class for 60 plus. Which you know, Brooks. I know you go to those.
Love it.
So, sorry, mate.
Love it.
So they're not dedicated. They're invariably not dedicated spaces, which means I have a huge issue with the quality of them. But yeah, so that is the reality of contact centres. They are a bit make do. They are a bit make do. Now, having said that, there are a couple that are excellent, but they are few and far between.
All right, so let me ask you this here. So let's say local church, one evening a week, the family court. Who hires it out? Is it the family court that hire it out, rent it out, pay the bill for the hire?
No.
Who pays it?
Family court has no commercial involvement in contact centres. All children's contact centres are independent commercial entities or voluntary entities in their own right. They are nothing to do with the family court.
Okay, so in theory, I could say, right, every Thursday night at this local church, I hire the hall and I use it as a contact centre. Now stay with me, yeah? As a private business, private enterprise, yeah? I hire it, I run a business, and right, this is a local contact centre. I advertise it, people come to me and we do whatever, yeah? We have a guy there who's qualified who takes the notes, right? That's all it is, yeah? Now, in that hall, do I have as many, is it like rows of tables and chairs? If I can fit in 10 families, I fit in 10, 5, whatever the size of the hall is within that time slot, or how does it work? So the hall can fit in 10 tables and chairs for 10 families and kids. Is that the capacity that it runs by? How does it work?
No, the capacity of the room is governed by the fire regulations for the building. So the fire regulations on the building might well say there can only be 5 people in that room at any one time, or there can be 55 people in that room at any one time. So that's sort of issue number one. The fire regs on the building dictate how many people can be in the building. Issue number two, in terms of sort of tables and chairs or sofas or whatever, that is entirely up to you. There are no rules. There are no rules as to what a minimum requirement is. I am aware of a contact centre. I'm not going to say where it is because that's unfair. But I'm aware of a contact centre which only operates on a Saturday afternoon from midday until 5 p.m. That's the only time it operates. And it is an empty room. There are no tables. There are no chairs. Parents bring their own toys. Parents sit on the floor with their children.
Listen, we need to get on this contact centre game, man. We've got to, next time I come down, we need to just get onto the game plan and get one open, man. I say we jump onto this, honestly.
Well, we've talked about contact centres before, and my view. My view is that that there's a right way to do contact centering. I don't think anybody is doing it anywhere near as well as it could be done. The problem is, and this is always the issue, really, because it is a commercial entity. Because it has to stand on its own 2 feet, wipe its own face, pay for its staff, pay for the building, pay for the insurance, blah, 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 blah. When you've laid all that down against a cost base, you come up with a very big figure per hour that you have got to start to charge people just to cover your costs. And that is the major problem with it. And if you say, well, I'd rather, and I know there's a contact centre in the north, and again, I'm not going to name it, but they are very good friends of mine. Contact centre in the north, beautiful contact centre. I mean, beautiful. It is a lovely space. They've really thought it through. There's a lovely design. It's very vibrant. It's very welcoming. Loads of stuff in there for children to do. It's fab. And what they do is they only allow 2 families in the room, and it's a big room. They only allow 2 families in the room at any one time, in order that they've got space to run around and lark about and have some privacy, because they can be on either side of the room. And they do that, which is fabulous. It's £200 an hour.
Ooh. 2 clients, £400, roughly £400 an hour. For a business, I suppose you'd need that. It's in its own building. It's dedicated. It's got kitchen area. It's got toilets. It's got blah blah blah. It's got staff, proper staff, real staff. Qualified staff, qualified child professionals.
it's an expensive place to run. It's
It's going to
£200
cost
an hour.
money. Yeah, fair enough. I see the problem. Yeah,
Mm.
I think the balance between providing that service and keeping the lights on and potentially making maybe a little profit is tricky business. That's why maybe they don't bother going to that extreme. Yeah.
It is a tricky business, you know, because you are essentially running. The model is very similar, and I apologize to everybody who's not particularly interested in this, but the model you're running is essentially a nursery. It's the nursery model, and when you run a nursery model, and again, another mate of mine owns a chain of nurseries around the northwest, around Liverpool and Manchester. He owns about 6 or 7, I think it is.
Nice.
To run them, to make any money out of them, he has to have loads of children in them. Because then he can say to the parents, well, my cost is whatever his cost is, and I can't remember, it's £30 an hour, I think, from memory, per child. But he does that because there's 100 kids in there.
Yeah, volume. He's got volume. Yeah.
And that's how he has to have 100 kids in there 5 days a week, you know, and then he runs it at the weekend as a contact centre in order to make some more money.
Yes, I think it's not as black and white or straightforward as it sounds. Yeah, it's a difficult balance.
Very difficult business model, running that type of mechanism. You know, be it contact centre or nursery, there's very little to divide them, and it's a very difficult business model.
Yeah, maybe you're being a bit harsh on them. Fair enough. All right. Right, let's move along. Mr. S, how often are decisions made during the FDR similar to the final hearing in financial, or can they be widely different? Is it worth taking a shot to go to the final hearing?
Okay, let's first discuss or share the difference between the FDR and the final. Okay, so we're talking.
Carry on, Mr. Ryan. Can I just jump off for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. So we're starting with. So we're talking about financial proceedings here, folks. We're talking about, you know, you've done your divorce, or you're in the middle of your divorce, and you're now sorting out the financial assets. There are theoretically 3 hearings that take place in a financial matter. Sometimes there's more, but they're designed to only be 3. First hearing, very straightforward. Let's talk about why we're here, what we're going to argue about. Second hearing is referred to as the FDR, financial dispute resolution. Third hearing is referred to as the final hearing. So what should happen? In the first hearing, you decide what it is that you're arguing about. So houses, jewelry, antiques, cars, bank accounts. That's decided in the first hearing, theoretically. Very rarely happens. In the second hearing, which is the FDR, the judge has sat in front of him all of your assets. And he looks at them and he says, without taking any opinion from you, he looks at them and he says, if I was making a decision on all of these assets today, this is the decision I would make. And we call that in court, we call that an indication. So he might say, looking at this, I think I would probably just take everything, drop it in the middle of the table, split it straight down the middle and fire one half over to the wife, one half over to the husband. Everybody get on with their life. Referred to as an indication. What he then expects you to do for the next couple of hours in and around the FDR is to go and discuss that with each other via your legal representatives, if that's the case, and come back to him as the judge and say, we either agree with you, judge, so we agree with this indication, in which case he will then make that law and on you go and do it. Or you go back and say, well, we kind of agree with it, but we've changed a couple of bits, but we now have a version that we agree. Again, he will then go and make that law. Then obviously the third option, the fairly obvious option, is, judge, we can't agree. We still just arguing over the trivial stuff. You know, we're deciding who gets custody of the cat, and you know, who gets the marital gold. In which case you've got to go to final hearing. The judge in every FDR will always make 99.9% of the time will always make the same comment, which is, if you go to the final hearing, after cross-examination has taken place, the final decision lies with the judge. You have no control. So you both may end up with something that you do not like. And that is always a warning that you are given. Now, in my experience, and it's just my experience, other legals may have a different view, but in my experience, there is as much chance at a final hearing of getting a totally different outcome than that which you were offered at the FDR as there is of you ending up with something that's fairly close to what you're offered at the FDR. It really boils down to how well you present your case. It really boils down to how well you can dismantle the other side. It really boils down to how well cross-examination takes place and what evidence you can offer up in your Section 25 statement. A Section 25 statement is a document that you present to the court which spells out in fairly simple bullet-pointy terms, this is my case. This is my view on houses. This is my view on bank accounts. This is my view on pension. This is my view on jewelry. This is my view on antiques, whatever. You lay it out. This is my view on the other side. This is what I think they should do to be earning money. This is what I think they should do for a job. So it's you laying out your whole case as to how life should carry on once the court has made the decision. And that's a Section 25. So that is an incredibly valuable document because it is the cornerstone of your pitch to the court. So answering the question, there is a good opportunity for a final hearing to deliver a wildly different outcome to that which has been suggested in an FTR. But it does boil down to your ability or your legal's ability to present a strong, robust and substantiated case. Because if you can't, if there is weakness in your case, that weakness will be exposed very quickly by the other side unless they are incompetent. And you potentially will end up with something that you do not like. And you will potentially end up with something that is significantly worse than you were offered at the FDR, because both sides have the opportunity in final hearing to take advantage of the situation. The FDR is the FDR. What was said there is not known to the judge who sits on the final hearing. Let me just explain that for a minute. So the judge at the final hearing is a judge that you will have never seen before during your financial proceedings. And the reason we do that is because that judge is required to have fresh eyes. What does that mean? He's required, or she's required, to have never seen your matter before, so they cannot form an opinion on it. They cannot have a prejudice on it. So they are looking, they don't have any idea what the previous judge gave by way of indication, because that's not written down anywhere. So they don't have that indication available to them. They are looking at it from fresh eyes to then say, if it's me and I was making the decision today, which guess what? I am. This is the decision I will make. So it's a gamble, always a gamble, but there's no reason why with a robust case you can't do far better at final hearing than you do at FDR.
Right, I think Mr. Ryan covered that in some depth by the sounds of it. Shall we move along?
Off we go.
Right, Mr. Cal Bedford, going off what J-Dad said, so if I'm getting indirect, I could go back in a year and get more contact because my fact find is approaching. So I might just settle for that and go back after a year or two. And I was advised that going into the fact finding would or could be worse for me or end up worse.
Okay, well, we've said before, time and time again, fact finds are dangerous. Fact find is an incredibly unpredictable, very unpredictable situation in family court, and it's completely out of your control because it is as close as you're ever going to get in family court to a trial. So whether either of you or both of you have got the allegations, whoever it is who is being perceived as the bad guy or the good guy, you can stand or fall in a fact find. So taking your earlier point, which is get the fact find out of the way, accept whatever they give you, and then hang on for a year or two. I get the logic of that, and there's some rationale to that. The issue is if your fact find goes incredibly badly, two things could happen. Number one, you could get no contact at all, which is a difficult position to come back from. Number two, they could hand you a program of remedial work that they want you to do. They'll hand you a final order. This is what you're going to do. You might see your children once a week or once a fortnight, or indeed just be able to communicate to them via telephone, or just be able to write to them. So you'll get some sort of contact order. But we want you to undertake a program of work. And you cannot come back to this court until you can demonstrate that you have completed that program of work. So fact finds are dangerous. Your rationale of take what you're given and come back in a year or two has a logic to it, as long as you accept the fact that what you could be given might not be a lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like a great situation. Well, we work with what we have ultimately. Right. Evening, gents. Evening, Mr. Cosset. Again, going off JDad, I have had spent time with for nearly a year. Is a new application for shared care a must-do or a maybe? Question mark. No fact find in the original proceedings.
There's no, you're under no obligation to make another application. If you're perfectly happy with what you've got, get on with what you've got. And you may find as time goes by, and if you're coming up to a year, maybe it's time to just broach the subject with mum. You may be able to progress something naturally between the pair of you without having to go back to court. So there's no obligation to return to court to fight for shared care. If you're perfectly happy with the way life is panning out currently, go with your life. Why would you go back to court?
Okay, hope that answers the question, Cosset. Right, Mr. Kashi Patel, it's most likely my ex living in Poland with the child is planning on taking me into Polish court at some point. Although the UK uses CMS, how will the financial declaration work in Poland?
Very quick one. Polish, as do the French, as do the Germans, as do the Italians, as do the Spanish, as do the Danish, all have their own version of child maintenance. And nearly all countries in the world, or certainly all what we regard as sort of the westernized countries, subscribe to a system called REMO. And REMO is an international agency who collect money from parents who live abroad. So if you're in the UK and the other parent is in Poland, as we are in this instance, the Polish court can issue an order for child maintenance, and the parent who is in Poland can engage firstly with the Polish child maintenance service, who then ultimately will engage with REMO in order to set up a collection mechanism. So people who believe, and this is certainly not being inferred about Kashi, absolutely not, but I'm just exploring the situation. People who believe that that because they're in a different country they can avoid child maintenance, you can do for a while, you can duck and dive for a bit, but eventually they catch up with you. I finished one a while ago where I was chasing a guy in the US. I'd been chasing him for 2 years through REMO. We have now just caught up with him. We have got an American court order against him, and he is about to part with nearly $40,000. And in the US, interestingly, if you don't pay child maintenance, you go to prison. So it's a working mechanism. There is a mechanism for it to happen.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, scary news. Right, Mr. Cow, go for it. Because what's your contact with right now? Because the only thing I'd be worried about is ending up with less contact at the end of the second time round. These guys said that is possible. So Cal Cossack has replied every other weekend and 2 midweek nights unsupervised. An interesting topic not talked about much, as most, myself included, tend to think once the original proceedings are over, that's it. Mr. Cow, well done getting that, but be risky for me because if I decide to go through with this fact finder, I'll have findings against me, so I might just accept indirect for now. Yeah, I can see the logic.
Okay, let me just pick up on that point, because there's a suggestion there from Cal that he might try and drop out of the fact find and just take indirect contact as a final measure, and actually not have the fact find run. Just say, well, essentially you are negotiating, a closed position in order to avoid a fact find. That's something that's doable. That's something that I've done before. It's not something I'm a big fan of, to be perfectly honest. But I've done it where it's we're in a bit of a no hope situation. The downside that I need to flag for you is if you do not run a fact find, that fact find can be reopened when you reopen proceedings in a year's time, because those allegations are still lying there. They have been untested. They have been unreviewed by the court. So the court may deem it relevant for those allegations to surface again and for the fact find to come back. Be aware of that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. I think that's a point to note. I think, yes, very good to know. Right, so our message regarding increasing contact on my family visits all logged and never got a reply. I replied to other matters, but that should ignore. No reply is a reply, and all that. Yes, I think that no reply says it all. So the only way you're going to get more is you're going to have to go through the meat grinder at its family court. Ultimately, she's not going to make it easy for you by the sounds of it or the looks of it.
She's not going to make it easy, but just on that one, given that you have messaged and she's ignored the message, just do yourself a favour and just send another message that said, I sent a message on this day at this time. I note I've not had a reply. Can you just have a look at it for me? Because what you've done then is when you do end up back in court talking about it, you can say, there's an argument to say she missed the first message. I don't believe she did. I messaged her again and reminded her about the first message, and she still ignored it.
I like that. That's a point to note as well, guys. Cover your back. Cover your back, and this will all suffice as evidence at the hearing. Yeah. Right, here we go. Got a response from Kashi. Could I dispute in the Polish court that I gave my ex 30k in cash to buy her apartment that her dad bought her? I was not on the title deed of the property, but I took on the full 60k of debt on.
Providing, like all things, Kashi, and you know this well enough, but providing you can evidence anything you say, then yes, of course you can. If you can evidence through bank statements, etc., etc. Now she will say that maybe you did give her 30,000 quid, but that was a gift, and she used it to buy Mars bars, new underwear, and a teddy bear. Your stance is that your belief, when you were handing her £30,000, was going towards a property, and if you happen to, and I appreciate it was a while ago because I'm acutely aware of your case. If you happen to have some messages, obviously that you still have messages on your phone that confirm that this is you talking about buying this property between you, that's obviously going to assist your position. So whatever you choose to assert in court, if you can evidence it, you can say it.
Fair enough. Makes sense. Right, because you're quite happy to do another C100 and go through the process as no fact find before. Unsupervised contact in decent quantities, so don't see why not. In your case, that would make sense, I would say, because it sounds like you're.
Your case sounds very, very reasonable. Your case sounds very reasonable.
Right, Mr. Ryan, do you have any experience on non-remo CMS cases? I understand Isle of Man of non-remo. Could it work if I fly back for contact and back out again for work, except for every couple of weeks? Good question.
It is a good question, and I'm going to give you two answers, and neither of them you're going to like. Why would you want to avoid paying money towards your children? It's question number one. And then the second question is, I'm perfectly honest, I can't remember without looking. But the Isle of Man is a strange old place, despite the fact it's only 50 yards off the Liverpool dock. But I can't remember what Isle of Man's remo position is because it is a bizarre old place. I would have to look, to be perfectly honest. Your suggestion of essentially taking up some sort of temporary residency in the Isle of Man, flitting backwards and forwards in order to try and protect your position, taking on board my initial comment, which is why would you do that? I don't know, to be perfectly honest. That's something I would need to dig into to see how workable that is.
Yeah, but I just want to know, what is Isle of Man like? Is it a good place to live? Nice and peaceful and safe?
Isle of Man is, I've been to the Isle of Man many times, and the Isle of Man is beautiful. It is a beautiful place. It's quite trapped in time. It's 30 years ago from the rest of us, and there's something quite quaint about that. The downside of the Isle of Man, obviously, and I assume this still takes place, is that every year, every motorbike rider in the whole of the country goes to the Isle of Man in order to watch the TT racing, where they scream round the roads of the Isle of Man at 100 mile an hour, hundreds of bikes. And they do that for, I think, it used to be a weekend. It may even be a bit longer now, the festival. That would not please me if I lived there. But aside from that, the Isle of Man is beautiful. And the reason people choose to live there, or lots of people choose to live there, is because it is a tax haven. because its tax position, because it has its own government, and its tax position is different to the mainland. That is why people choose to go there. But it is also, if you want to reside there, and I presume this position hasn't changed, Isle of Man and Jersey, down south of the country, obviously where the Isle of Man is in the northwest of the country, both used to have a position where you required a certain amount of money of ready cash in your bank account before they even entertained letting you come and live there. It used to be, for both of those, for both the Isle of Man and Jersey, it used to be £1 million in cash before they even entertained letting you live there. I don't know whether that's still the position, because I know certainly in Jersey they started to run out of people about 25 years ago, and they relaxed the provision a little bit, because essentially their problem was they had lots of wealthy people, but they had nobody who wanted to do a day's work. So there was nobody to work in the shops, and etc., etc. So they may have relaxed the position. But yes, so the Isle of Man is a strange old place, a beautiful place, but a strange. It's got a strange set of
sounds
living.
like it. Well, I mean, if they've relaxed their rules, I might ask the question: would they allow me to put up a friend's Bentley as some sort of say, oh, my friend's got a Bentley? Does that give me a pass? Do you know what I mean?
Does that give you a, well? It doesn't give me a pass, because I say a friend of mine does live on the Isle of Man, and he's obscenely wealthy, and he lives on the Isle of Man, and his view is always, there's no way on this earth I would ever let you live on this island. So,
oh God, bloody hell! Like that is it? That's what friend is he? Great. Right. Mr. AMP786, do you have any examples of contact is limited? I've contacted my community. What could go wrong for me to lose contact as my case may go to a fact find? I'm confident that I have evidence with my allegations.
Oh, goodness me, there's a lot of questions there. Do I have any examples where contact is limited? Well, yeah, I've got 100,000 examples where contact is limited. The question is quite vague. And again, contact in the community. I've got 100,000 examples of where there's contact in the community. What can go wrong for you to lose contact? Let's get to that. So what can go wrong for you to lose contact? What can go wrong is your contact sessions start to go wrong. The supervisor starts to not like what you're doing. They don't like the conversation that's going on. The children start to look uncomfortable. The children start to look bored. The children are going home and reporting themselves as upset and distressed and saying they don't want to do it anymore. All of that is going to contribute to your contact going wrong. If your matter does head to a fact find, your contact, there is a very, 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 very distinct possibility that your contact will be stopped. Now, there's an irony. There's a strange lack of logic to that. The court says that today we're perfectly okay with you having contact with your children, but tomorrow, because we've decided that we want to carry out a fact find against you, we've decided you're no longer safe to have contact with your children. My view in that scenario is a very simple one. What is different about me today from tomorrow? There's nothing. My history is still the same. What has happened, whatever that may be, is still the same. Today, I'm okay to be with my children. Tomorrow, I'm not. There's no logic to that. Absolutely no logic. But that will happen. That will potentially happen where you will lose your contact as soon as they decide you're going to a fact find. The fact that you're confident you've got evidence with your allegations, wonderful. That will be for you to present a robust case within the fact find.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question, Mr. Ramp. Yeah, I mean, I think we forget sometimes that it's a difficult road, man. We are on a difficult road. That's fact. Mr. S, Mr. Amp, how long is your contact in the community? I've said here, got more info on the Isle of Man. People on the Isle of Man rent their property out during TT week and go on holiday and still make a tidy profit. I suppose with the old Airbnb.
That's true. As I say, my mate certainly does that. Well, he actually puts staff. This is how big his house is. He puts staff into his house and turns his house into a hotel for TT week, and he goes to his holiday home in Florida. Yeah, so that's what he does. But yeah, in that respect, TT week in the Isle of Man is like Wimbledon fortnight. The number of people down in Wimbledon who rent their houses out during Wimbledon fortnight and tear off somewhere else. All the tennis. This is a misnomer. Most of the tennis stars who compete at Wimbledon live in rented houses during Wimbledon fortnight. They don't live in hotels. So yes, and I say again, somebody I did their divorce for them a few years ago, had a house, and they used to rent their house to Roger Federer. Every year they rented their house to Roger Federer during Wimbledon fortnight and charged him ridiculous sums of money just for him and his team, his coach and the guy who ties up his laces for him and the guy who strings his rackets, all to stay at his house, and he just used to charge them obscene money to do that.
I think he must have made a tidy sum. That sounds really good. I need some of that.
Well, he paid his mortgage for the year off Wimbledon fortnight.
Wrong game, bro. Airbnb, man. I think I need some of that, bro. Some of that money. Right, because I went to Jersey as a kid and came across an open garage with all sorts of exotics, and it turned out it was Nigel Mansell's garage. Showed my age. Yes,
good old Nigel. I met Nigel many years ago. He was a lovely man, a real gent.
Jersey got some serious wealth per square foot. It's unbelievable. Yeah, listen, I didn't realize Jersey had that sort of money.
Yes, serious money in Jersey. Serious money.
Right, Mr. Amp. Let's make this. It's been 1 hour, guys. It's been a steady stream. The viewing has been very consistent compared to the usual 8 o'clock start. I think 8:30 to 9:30 looks like we're straight in, direct, straight out, maximum viewing from the off. Right, thank you, Daniel. Well, I potentially could lose contact if I go into a fact find or if my children are bored, as there's not much to do in the 2 hours we have. What a sad state of affairs with no thought on the kids. Right, Mr. Amp, I agree with you. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes you're going to have days like this. Look, low energy, tired, frustrated. The system seems like it's all against you. It's unfair. We're going to have these low moments. That's the reality of the family court. You know, this week I started thinking of my kids again. It just sort of hits you and you start thinking, am I doing enough? I question myself. Am I doing enough? What else could I be doing? What else can I do? And as you saw, reached out to the ex-father-in-law, you saw the response, toxic as hell. And he's the enabler. He's the one pushing these buttons. And this is an elderly person who's meant to be no better ultimately. And also is meant to be apparently a God-fearing man, yeah? You know, this sort of people we're dealing with, right? So we're going to have days like this. We're going to have downers. We're going to have moments where it seems hopeless. But the key is you just keep moving forward regardless. You keep chipping away regardless. There are going to be moments where your energy is going to be high again. Your confidence is going to be high. You're going to feel strong again. But it's during these low moments that you have to ride the storm and get yourself through till you get back to the elevated state where you feel strong and you can fight. So don't give up hope, just keep believing and take these moments. I would say to you personally, pray, reach out to God, talk to the universe, talk to the stars, whatever it is that you do, listen. Connect with your spiritual side because we need every edge and advantage we can get. And we need to get through these low moments. Simple as. Last 3 comments I'll quickly read out, and then we wrap it up. I've had 3 months of community contact after being in a room for 3 months trying to push for unsupervised. I would say to you, Ant, look, it's headed the right way. You've gone from community contact, so you've had contact in the contact center, and now you've progressed to community contact. So you're headed in the right direction. So I would say hold on to the positive. Focus on what you have, not what you don't have. And you're pushing for more. So you're headed on that upward trajectory. You're headed in the right direction. Just keep that positive mindset and look at what you have. Don't start getting dragged down or bogged down. You know what is at risk of the fact find. But do not get bogged down with it. Do not keep thinking about that. Do not focus on that. Just take the advice Mr. Ryan has given and carry on your strategic path, eyes on the prize, and stay on that focus path. When you've got contact and you're headed for better contact, ultimately your contact journey has started and you're well within it eventually to get to a point where you haven't supervised. Some of us are still waiting for our first hearing, like, after many years. So trust me, you're doing well. course, it make those 2 hours count as best as you can. Absolutely great advice, guys. I know I'm rabbiting on a bit, but listen, look at what you have. The problem is people focus on what they don't have. You have contact, means you have a relationship with your kids. The bond is there. You ride the storm, you will come through, and when they get of age, you will have a relationship with them. Those who have no contact for years have no relationship. That contact, that relationship is broken forever. Ultimately, you don't have that. You're in a good place. Focus on that. 2 hours of quality interaction to a child is massive. Enjoy every second. Absolutely. I just want to say thank you to Cosset, £20 super sticker. Cosset, thank you very much. This will ensure I don't go hungry for a couple of nights out online here. It's a tough world out here online. You know what I mean? I'm hustling. I'm hustling and struggling. My chance of going to Jersey and the Isle of Man have been shattered. Mr. Ryan's going to have to put up his Bentley just to try and get me access in there. So thank you, Cosset. £20 really helps, to get me some dinner tonight. Otherwise, I can't go hungry. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
Thanks, mate. I'm doing the best I can. You're doing great. You're doing great. You pick yourself up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You focus and you continue with your contact, with a smile. I'm going to say no more on this. Man, all the comments, just when we go to wrap up, right? The comments just start flying in. Maybe trying to increase the number of hours. I want to see you in some new shades. You know what, Cosset? You're right. I'm going to treat myself to some new shades. I need a new anchor. I need a new image. I need to add to the collection. I'm going to get some. You know what? Next Saturday, I'll have some new shades. Guys, Mr. Ryan, any final words? We've got to wrap it up, guys. We're going to try and keep it to an hour because obviously we drag on too long normally. 8:30 to 9:30 is working well. I think it's been to the point and steady viewing. Mr. Ryan, is there anything else you want to add?
I'm going to add two things. Number one, use your £20 and buy a welding mask. I want to see you in a welding mask.
I've got one. I'll tell you what, I've got one.
Oh, good. Excellent. We'll put it on. Aside from that, I'm going to say this about contact. If you've got contact with your children, unfortunately, in order for that contact to work, you have got to become a children's entertainer. The dad I met many years ago, who was absolutely superb at child contact. He was getting 2 hours a fortnight with his kids, and that is all he was getting in a contact centre. And he spent the 2 weeks between every session planning the next session. And he delivered every session like it was a children's party. He did games, he did pass the parcel, he did musical chairs, he did running around. He brought stuff with him for them to do, for them to paint, for them to make. He did the whole wrap yourself up in toilet paper. He brought newspapers so they could make models. He was full on. He turned up with instruments. He turned up with recording equipment so they could record stuff. He was full on. That is what you've got to do, I'm afraid, because those children have to leave that contact session energized and say, love it, absolutely love the contact to get with my dad. There are too many dads who let themselves down by turning up at the contact centre, and then they sit there staring at the phone, watching their kids run around thinking, well, this is good, I've got contact, and very occasionally they speak to them. That's not what it's about. That's not what, and you're absolutely right, Cossie. I am pretty much describing Mrs. Doubtfire, but he wasn't Mrs. Doubtfire. He was a lovely guy from Milton Keynes. But he just accepted the fact that this is it. This is my moment. I get 2 hours out of 300 and whatever it is, 330 hours that are available in a fortnight. I get 2. I am going to make those the best 2 hours these kids ever get in a fortnight. And he went full on and full out, to the point that the contact centre, after he'd been doing it for a couple of months, said to him, do you mind if we take some of your ideas and give them to other parents?
Wow.
You've got that little period of time. Make it magical.
I think, guys, that's a brilliant point, Mr. Ryan raised. You have to pull it out of the bag. You have to get over yourself, get over your own pain, and pull it out of the bag. And I think, just talking about Mrs. Doubtfire, I remember watching that as a kid. Robin Williams, what a legend, and watching that kid as a film, and then remembering that film as an adult, watching that film as an adult, it hits differently. Pain is real, and it's understandable what some people are willing to go through just to be close to their kids. And as Robin Williams says, that final scene in court, my kids are my whole life. I'll do anything Guys, we got to do what we got to do. We got to soldier on. People, like, subscribe, follow, and share. We are here every Sunday going forward, 8:30 p.m. Like, subscribe, follow, share this link to those who need it, those who are going through the system, and just ride the storm, guys. Ride the storm. We've got to do what we got to do. Mr. Ryan, any final words? Or you done? Over and out?
We're done. We're done. Have a good week, guys. Have a good week. God bless.